So, welcome to this video. I was actually doing a fair amount of music therapy there the last hour or two, listening to a wide variety of tracks, having a lot of memories hit me, a lot of emotions, a lot of physical energy running through my body, being aware of the recent solar storms, geomagnetic storms, portals connecting the sun to the earth. This being discussed on a regular basis now over at spaceweather.com and spaceweather.gov. So I'm going to talk in this video about the larger world situation. I'm also going to talk about how, on this channel I talk about the Archonic interference in human relationships, human thoughts. That doesn't mean that we're powerless. That doesn't mean that they are all powerful. So I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on that. And I also feel that this is where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing at this exact moment in time, and that is speaking to you on YouTube through this unique way of communication that has been gifted to this particular generation in this particular time-space reality. And I am choosing to use my time on this earth towards speaking about the issues that I feel are important. I have picked this lifestyle. I have created my own reality. And I'd rather be here in what some may see as the middle of nowhere, in safety, in peace, in silence, than other realities that I've already experienced thus so far. You may not understand why I speak about these issues and why I do what I do and why I am who I am. And you don't need to know all those things. You don't need to know all those things. You don't need to confuse yourself with the personality that is Alex Ansary. So we will talk about the world situation. We will talk about the human spirit overcoming the Archonic system, also known as the dark grid. And what I can tell you, we talk about how our environments can impact our reality, our moods, our thoughts. Going from what I went through in Taos, New Mexico, to worrying about the transmission, the thoughts being consumed with all the money spent for a recent transmission repair. And that experience, and I'm glad I got through that experience. Thank God for AAA. The way I feel right now, this heightened awareness, this sense of not fight or flight, actually a calmness in me, a peace in me, but a fierceness in me, a determination in me, a unwillingness to be someone's slave, to be bent, to be broken, to be destroyed, to have my spirit extinguished, unwilling to comply with weakness. So right now, I feel a sense of peace even going into town today. I talked briefly about that in the last video. And that sense of a subtle sense of goodness within the town, a subtle sense of kindness from certain people. The coldness was there in some cases. Bringing my attention, though, however, to my ability to deal with that. I want to address this idea of surviving the Archonic world. Dealing with people that are sociopaths in today's day and age. Surviving the modern matrix. And the fact of the matter is, I don't have all of the answers to those questions relating to how to survive people that are afflicted with Archonic consciousness. But what does come up in my experiences is when you are dependent on other people in some way, shape, or form, somehow or another, you leave yourself vulnerable to Archon hijack. Why do some people have it more than others? That's a matter of perspective. I do believe that I have learned that through my experience, when your lifetime is marked, is known, is recognized as one that is raising awareness as to how the Archons and or other groups, secret societies, governments, control human beings, how human beings are slaves, how this planet, this prison planet, is some sort of energy harvesting center, some sort of a matrix where people are living their lives in these false realities. Don't waste your time debating whether the earth is a globe or flat. It's the other aspect of what is this reality and why are we in it? Why are we here? What is this reality? And so, yeah, these are absolutely times where people are asking these questions. And I also feel that there are a great many people watching this channel now that are seeking the answers to those questions. So how do we deal with this Archonic attempt? Using other words to describe, how do we cope in a world of control structures, dominating personalities? How do we survive this world of enslavement, corporate takeover, the corporate personhood? How do we not lose ourselves in this prison? How do we not adopt prison-like behavior? What do people do when they're in a prison, even if they know they're in a prison? They rape each other. Not everyone participates in the raping. A great deal many do. Or would be willing to. As it is in that prison of physical walls, it is in this open air prison. That is the lives so many are living. And so understanding what we're dealing with. Understanding what we're dealing with is key. We're dealing with a system. We're dealing with Archonic consciousness. We're dealing with human beings that would love to be slaves, slave masters, masters over others, controllers of others, manipulators of others, molesters of others, being able to literally fuck people, literally and metaphorically. Okay? And regardless of your morals, your integrity, what you're like, that's how you are. And I am how I am. And that's just how it is. And yet we're in a world where there are other people with different morals, different levels of integrity that are capable of certain things, that are capable of eating a human body that has been barbecued over a fiery grill. Okay. You and I live in a world where we are coexisting with a psychopath, sociopath, whether you believe that that's man's darker inner nature, or whether you're looking at it from another perspective, that some of these human beings that are acting out this way are not acting as themselves, because their true selves have checked out. Something else is checked in. So, the basic things that come to mind when this question is posed. How do we survive the Archonic attempted takeover of our consciousness? For one thing, let's start there. We have to be honest with ourselves. If we're involved in a programming that's going to attract that Archonic consciousness, being Archonic competition, false reality, inversion, control, domination. So we look at people that are into certain political systems and ideologies that deal with control, that deal with judgment, that deal with pointing the finger and misdirecting. And so, if people want to be free from that Archonic programming, they have to be honest with themselves if they're somehow playing a role in this, propping up the Archonic system, subscribing to things relating to control, domination, misdirection, distraction, sensationalism, gossip. So there's other things that this could be called. But it really is about clearing oneself of what is attracting some of that. Now, I'm in a unique position because I understand that simply by me putting out some of this content, discussing the Archons and their infiltration of human consciousness, it results in energy backlash. But there are certain things that they can't do to me, and they're not able to do to me. And even people that hate me or dislike me, they're in human form, there's things that they can't do to me. They can't violate my free will. They can't capture my freedom. They may fantasize about it. They may want to. They may try to create certain sabotage, but they're only able to do certain things. And when you engage in certain attempts to sabotage or hurt someone else, it takes some of your energy. And I don't believe that these Archons have infinite energy. So when they go on some of these attacks, and some of the attacks that, some of the psychological operations where they try to turn one person against another, or to antagonize one person by using a number of people that are easy to be hijacked and infiltrated, a lot of these attacks don't seem to be very intelligent. They may seem to be intelligent on one level, the surveillance that the Archons have accrued somehow, some way. And I also believe this internet and the whole surveillance society, as it has become known to all of us, has ultimately been built for something else, to use all this as a surveillance mechanism. Bloodline information, hospitals, things of that nature, DNA, it's valuable information. There's a reason why there's a DNA database. And it's not just for human beings. This is me speaking from the heart, what I believe is obviously taking place. I can feel it. I can taste it. It's almost as if I can smell the operating room. But this planet is a giant petri dish in ways that a lot of people have not even imagined. And I'm also, I'm discussing things in an abstract way. But the general theme is protecting ourselves and our minds and looking for the clues in this matrix in our reality. How do we overcome what these parasites, they're not powerful rulers just because they're called Archons. It's a term to describe this parasitic spiritual force that is feeding on humanity, that does not have infinite energy, that actually can be turned against itself in a way that Aikido can redirect an attack. I believe that there are ways to redirect what the Archons are doing, including sending some of these Archons back, which are really like ghosts of energy, which are created and destroyed, or at the least, to be specific, what is under the Archons, what the Archons are creating and throwing these spiritual cyborgs and reptilians that are actually being directed and created by something else. Well, there's a central dark grid machine, an interdimensional machine that interfaces with this reality. So when they live, they talk about the signal, the television station sending out the signal. Which one is sending out the mind control signal? Well, yes, physically, there are some stations physically out there on the planet that may be sending out a signal, and subliminals, and radio stations, and smart waves. But on another level, beyond physical media, mainstream media, beyond physical radio waves, controlled and ran by mankind, I believe that there's another machine out there that is some sort of a central hive mind of darkness, as depicted in Dark City, which you can find for free to watch on YouTube. So, first of all, I believe that mankind has the ability to put their minds together to bring down this dark grid. I believe that our connection with the sun, for example, that we can redirect this solar power energy, and instead of our solar panel system or whatever frying, transformers frying, we can actually fry the Archons. We can actually fry their mainframe. And we can actually send Archons back, or shall I say the things that they create, these ghostless, faceless things that come out of the wall, the Agent Smiths of this world, that seems to be part of their tentacles, but it's not necessarily the core. We can send that energy back to them that almost functions like a virus. And what we're sending back to them is our life force and our energy and our emotion and our connection to source. As we bring in that natural cosmic or solar energy and we run it back, there's actually these times where I can hear that frequency, that's almost trying to, like the target individual frequency, and there's moments where it's like you can just gobble that up. And I've heard some people Talk about the visualization of an attack is coming at you, literally absorbing it and diffusing it. And I've done that a few times. And the sound is going away. I've also visualized a mirror. That energy that's being sent to me is going right back to where it came from. Right back to where it came from. What I've also learned in my travels, next to if you're dependent on someone else and you're not completely independent, you're vulnerable to someone playing games with you. What I've realized is that when I'm down and I'm sharing part of my pain on YouTube, people that are easily affected by negative emotions, that love to troll, that love to attack people and put people down, they will almost act like they're activated by remote control. Like something is aware that I'm in pain at that moment, and then they seize on that moment, and then it's blast, blast, blast. But if I'm in a state of being strong, and my auric field is strong, and I'm not smoking cigarettes, for example, and I'm eating enough and drinking enough water and or tea, I'm getting some exercise, doing some body movements, and some of these body movements that I've shown you boost our chi and aura, and it's tied to psychic defense. So when I'm in my game, if you will, those type of torpedoes are not being launched at me. People are always going to be kind of nasty and sociopathic in the YouTube comment section, but there's a period when it's off the charts, and there's a period where it's fairly quiet. So we seek to look at the things in our lives, whether we want to look at ourselves in a certain light or not. And we go down the list in a very personal fashion or way. You don't have to write it down, but ponder it. For example, for those of you involved in relationships, who also may be experiencing some archonic interference, what could be attracting that into your life? What's going on in your private life that could be attracting that archonic interference? And I would really look at things from a larger perspective, instead of if something's happening to someone, it must be their karma. See, I believe karma's real. And I made video about this. Karma comes to collect, and a lot of humans have forgot. But just because someone's having archonic interference, it doesn't mean that they did something wrong. The archons could try to come in and implant, oh no, you did something wrong. You're no good. You're not trying hard enough. Your little law of attraction. Oh, that's why you're in the situation. That's why you don't have a certain amount. And other people that are feeding into some of the New Age bullshit, they may play into that programming. There are other reasons why certain human beings come on a radar, on a literal boop radar, a radar, to where they can be seen by some of these spiritual parasites from the air in some of these major cities or rural areas, where there are some spiritual forces that are manipulating some of the human beings and their emotions. And I believe that whatever is happening is far more widespread than what a lot of human beings have come to realize. If they were to put on the They Live glasses and not see the subliminals, but actually see how many spiritual parasites some of these urban people are. You picture, somebody walking, with their high heels, in a major U.S. city. And if you can put on the glasses and see how many spiritual parasites and how large they are, this has actually come to me in the last few months. It's outrageous. That's why some of them with a lot of spiritual parasites, some of them fairly large, like Nephilim-sized, and then a lot of little gray aliens and smaller dwarf type of spiritual parasites, all kind of tied together in this big blob or cloud that's like following this person, on their in this little reality. And some of those people are the most promiscuous, okay? Because the spirits that have control over that human being, they want to infect as many other human beings as possible. Now, that's just one example of millions. Here you got a male, and he has a firearm, and he doesn't give a fuck that he's about to burn a village. In this hypothetical situation, he doesn't give a fuck about that female's feelings when he rips off her clothes and her burqa, and he rapes her, and he screams, "Call me daddy. Say you love America. Say you love America." Literally getting off on what he's actually doing to her. the trauma, as he actually does it in front of the children. Behind him, a big spiritual blob of all these different types of things. We also look at the situation of the victims of war. Did they all do something wrong to deserve what happened to them? Just because karma is real, I believe that what we do put out comes back. I just don't believe that it comes to everybody back at the same rate, which is what confuses people. You know, people see other people getting away with madness and murder, literally for a lifetime, because they're serving the Archonic agenda. And something is keeping them alive just long enough as a host, literally as a host. The Archons are using some of these humans as hosts until those humans stop playing ball. If those humans stop playing ball, if those humans wake up, you know, they're going to find certain interference in their lives. Maybe they'll find themselves set up. Maybe somebody will find something. Maybe when they were heavily archonically influenced or controlled, you know, you hear about the pedophiles and the sex tapes. You know, it's a lot of Archon energy where you co-opt someone sexually and you hook them up with a minor of their choice. Here, would you like a 14-year-old female or male? Oh, you want a 7-year-old male? Oh, we can arrange that. And then, of course, something happens to where they don't play ball, and boom! Another politician in the newspaper caught having anal sex with a child. You know who comes to mind? Terry Bean. Terry Bean, did you know he was the top Obama fundraiser? And he comes out of Oregon, also close to the mayor of Portland. Not to go into another Portland rant, but, you know, all that stuff about the Vatican, you know, molestation of kids. And here I am, last year and the year before, discussing the evil of Portland and more evil coming to it. And the history of sex trafficking, from the past to the present, to the females in the street, to things going on with boys behind closed doors at City Hall. Just like something out of an actual graphic novel of Sin City, for those that have actually read it, published by Dark Horse Comics. Ironically in Milwaukee, Oregon, just outside of Portland. So that whole world of sexual perversion, and I would say adultery. I'm not a religious person, but, you know, people that are obsessed with cheating and just bouncing around that don't realize why they can't stop hopping from cock to cock to cock, or from snatch to snatch to snatch. Excuse the language. But you know where I'm going with this. People that just can't settle down because they just got to keep spraying it. Like some sort of a wild cat. There's a reason why. So whether it's being promiscuous, one-night stands, or someone going on a rape binge, you know, whether they're wearing a military outfit or they're a serial killer, there are spiritual parasitic entities that ultimately have infiltrated that human being. They're using that human being as a host. Okay. So if someone wants to rid themselves of certain things and being controlled by Archons, I'll tell you what, you know, certain things like addictions to sex, pornography, smoking, alcohol, you know, any type of like sensory thing, if you become addicted to it and it starts controlling your behavior, then you're establishing accord with that world. You know, and the Archons live in this world of also glamour, look over here, escapism, you know, shiny objects, illusions, simulations, virtual realities, video games. And actually, back in the day, before Archons became more of a regular conversation, it might still be the case. You type in Archons into Google Images, and all these video games would pop up. Like, how perfect is that? That someone's using the term Archon already in these video games. You know, then recent years, Archon tied in with Dark ETs becomes more of a trending topic. Now, if you type in, you might see different things. But the world of addiction, again, virtual reality, Hollywood, mass entertainment, rulership, rape, sexual abuse, looking the other way when people are raped and killed, also Archonic consciousness, because that's apathy. Oh, we're not going to feel that and realize with our intuition, societies that go down certain directions in killing and raping sprees usually eventually have that come back to them in some way. Oh no, there's a whole bunch of Americans right now that are tapped out of that human consciousness, that are acting like you can just keep doing this. Yeah, go ahead, DARPA. Go ahead, build your robot army. That years ago, mainstream media has admitted that robot army can be hacked by China, hacked by Russia, hacked by Iran, hacked by North Korea. Oh, they're going to keep building the robot army anyways. Even though the whole thing, the whole Skynet, could be hacked. And the whole thing could be turned on humans. And the whole time, somebody else could be in control of the machines. So there's a lot of people out there that obviously have learned nothing from the Terminator movies. And that's what they do. They have put it in plain sight. You know, so for some people, how they can protect their mind from Archonic programming, from the Archons trying to control them, is to stop being ignorant, first of all, that there's nothing out there, or that there's nothing in here. They could stop seeing the Archons as outside of themselves and understand that part of themselves, you know, there's that inner voice. And sometimes that inner voice is not always our higher self. Higher self, higher consciousness knows everything. The higher self knows what's right for us. But there's another part of ourselves, maybe you've experienced this as well, where you thought that that straight down that way was going to lead you to where you need to go, and maybe you were led into danger. Or maybe you thought that this person could be trusted. I mean, you just thought that. You just knew that with every fiber in your being, that you can trust a certain person with $80 or $200. And you came to find out that your intuition was not hot at that moment, that person actually fucked you over. There's a number of things that you might be able to recollect in your own life to where, for whatever reason, you were not on your game. And maybe you were on your game up until that point, but something happened. We're going to go deeper in the thought now. Something happened along the way to where you were not on your game and you slipped on a banana peel. Okay, it's Alex Answery, Honest Moment time. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's talk about that day that I got the ticket from the police officer in Trinidad, Colorado for $650 for no insurance. 1 hour before that, I think I'm reading something about some law in Oregon, in Portland. And I make some joke, you know, because I'm bent about my experiences in Oregon and how I feel about some people in Oregon. And I say, you know, serves them right for not paying attention. Charge them 4 times. Something to that effect. Make them wake up to the fact, you know, that they're in that type of a system. Charge them 4 times. Well, that wasn't very nice to say. It was about an hour later that I made a mistake. See, the police officer is behind me, and I'm busy trying to get my seatbelt on, and I go through not a red light, a red stop, not in a populated part of town, but I make an error in judgment. And I look at certain times where I've had an error in judgment because I may have done something that resulted in me being distracted. Or I may have done something that may not have been right. And so, therefore, my awareness level was brought down a notch. Said another way, in another situation, somebody can have their intuition warn them when there's danger around the corner. Danger, danger. Don't go down that corner, lady. 3 rapists down there. Yeah, they're looking at you. Go the other way. They look at another situation where someone has no intuition. They're going down the alley. Perhaps they may have done something to attract negative karma to them. So, you know, they're busy. They're on their smartphone. Who knows what it is? They're fumbling for their keys. They're going into their apartment. And then, boom, there's another statistic. I'm not saying this is the case with every rape victim. But with murder victims, rape victims, assault victims, theft victims, I do think that there is a mix back and forth, at least, of some people having negative karma in some cases and it being returned to them. And in other cases, it's not negative karma. It's the fact that they are under attack because of who they are. And it could be a light that they are emitting because of their soul's frequency. Doesn't mean that they're necessarily seemingly an evolved person. There could be something about their soul that just emits a certain light. it could or could not be possibly tied in with their genetics. And they could be emitting something, and someone else comes across this person that's literally emitting this light, and it's blinding to them. You know, the very fact that someone with a certain set of genetics that somehow or another, psychically, they are subliminally enraged that that person is near them. And I believe this is happening subconsciously, below the surface psychologically. With some white Americans, there is that deep-seated rage. The beast. The destroyer. The barbarian. Like the sickness. Not like a righteous warrior of, defend the wife and village. I mean, we're talking about offensive, I'm going to kill you because of your seed and psychosis. No, it does live within the American military. It does live within NATO. That's why they had, the Afghani thumbs and all that cut off. They had the necklaces. You know that story about the troops in Europe. They were like, dancing around with, Afghan body parts. See, there's a deeper reason why when you hear some people, and we're not going to talk about this for a long time because I know it bothers some of you because the truth is, it stings like hydrogen peroxide on a knife wound. It stings when I tell you that there is a hate of the Afghan people. You don't believe that, most of you. You don't believe that. Oh, no. And it's evident from a lifetime of doing this channel in the comment section that most of you just don't understand that. That this is a people that's been targeted for elimination. That had nothing to do with 9/11. That when people talk out against the war, they constantly talk about Iraq, they can't say Afghan. Notice that. They can't say. So there's something about that line. And I certainly don't know a whole lot of Afghan truthers that are representing a human being that actually possesses some of those genetics, speaking truth. Some of you still don't understand the significance of this. In a world where these people have been demonized, in a world where these people are being killed, to have one of its own speak truth, who is not going, la 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 la, who's not some fucking long fucking towelhead, long ass beard, Saeed Muhammad. No, you have somebody else speaking on behalf and highlighting this genocide. I am only going to reach 100 few people per video, and that's fine. It doesn't matter that I'm not on the world stage. At times it troubles me that I'm not reaching more with this. Maybe that's not what's important. Maybe what's most important is that I say the things that need to be said about what's happening here and the consequences to America and how this ties in with World War III. To remind people they don't want to join this beast system. And if they have the means to speak out against it, speak out now or hold your peace forever in hell. Because that's where people will end up, a hell of their own making, a hell of their own mind. And that's what that is, a prison of one's mind. When they don't speak their mind, when they don't speak up for others, they're literally being bombed into a million pieces. When they have the technology to raise awareness as to what their government is doing, what people in their town are doing. Again, everything's going to happen with China and Russia is the end result of what's been allowed to happen, what the U.S. military has been directed into. It follows that. It follows the events that are happening today. The stage-managed World War III and occupation of U.S. soil. It follows the things that are being created and molded forth and put into position here and now. You read about the position of U.S. troops in Eastern Europe. You hear about the UN peacekeeping troops, the Chinese troops in Africa. You see Russia now involved in the Middle East and Syria. Oh, Putin's a hero. Putin declares they're going to leave Syria. Now Assad wants Putin to bring his troops back. Oh, Russia. And we see Russian troops training in Colorado, 2012. We see foreign troops training in Tampa Bay, Florida in 2012, before the RNC featuring Ron Paul, Mitt Romney, and that whole show. We have evidence. We have so much evidence. They're moving us in a certain direction. in the world of the Archons and pop culture, look over here, Kim Kardashian's ass, this fake-ass politics, Ted Cruz, Donald Trump, going back and forth, Heidi, your wife, sex scandal, hashtag, complete disinformation theater, hashtag, look over here, ha ha, boom, club, Spring Billy, pop, you know, whoa, I didn't see that coming, well, too bad, now you're feeling it. You know, the thing is, the world's been stunned by that blow, just boom, they didn't see that coming. They were looking over there, they were checking that text message. And then, boop, you got the brain hitting back, you know, rocking back and forth, hit the wall, you know, and they're stunned. They're not able to respond. You know, they're hearing birds, lights, and then boom, 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 until it's just no more. They're not aware of what's happening. They're still surprised it happened. Psychologically, America's being hit like this. And all the race war stuff and everybody on edge. And looking at the comment section of that Bernie Sanders video that I put up, I expected that stuff from Trump. People talking about wanting to beat up Kif Davis, the anarchist, in that video that was talking to Bernie Sanders. You know, normally we see some Trump supporters acting in a pretty aggressive way. The media has painted it that way. And then you look at Bernie supporters, and it's that same fascism. So, getting involved in politics, getting emotional in politics, on both sides, there's another video of Trump supporters and Trump protesters going at it. And I'm not with either side. You know, one side has some Bernie Sanders and Clinton people, the other has the Trump people. And they're both talking shit. And see, this is a society that promotes that, and that's Archon consciousness. Fight, fight, fight! You know, there's a Native American guy saying to Kif Davis, guy I knew when I was in Portland, where are you from? You're white. Go back where you came from. And white people actually cheering. Archonic consciousness. Race war, combat, political left-right. Fake compassion for the Muslims. Fake compassion for people of color. Fake compassion for people in poverty coming from the Sanders Club. And then we have people that are actually not true liberty people that are supporting Donald Trump because he does not support liberty ideals. Just because you're on stage and you talk about the fact that we have a trade deficit, you don't have to be a presidential candidate to talk about the fact that jobs have been transferred overseas. Just because somebody gets up on a podium and talks about the obvious, this is a point I'm going to make real briefly, doesn't mean that they're legit. Isn't it obvious that Donald Trump is the only person, just like Barack Obama, to say the buzzwords that America wants to hear? And the very people that Americans don't like, they are against the true populist candidate that they aim to push in. I think Trump is their choice, possibly their choice, because it'll piss people off. It'll piss off world leaders. It'll help divide this country even further, especially if they use vote fraud to get him in. Because I'm not convinced that Trump would hold the popular vote. We can have a situation like Gore and Bush. And we can see even a staged assassination attempt to continue to artificially boost the popularity of Donald Trump. We have people that obviously cannot be trusted, speaking against Trump, creating the false illusion, in my opinion, to a lot of people that the establishment is against Trump. And I don't believe that. I do believe there is an establishment, a conspiracy, a new world order, and that Donald Trump is eating out of their hands, and Donald Trump is people eating out of his hands. And so getting involved in supporting these people, or directing all your anger to Barack Obama, or Donald Trump, or Bernie Sanders, or Clinton, even being angry at them and giving them your anger, that feeds the Archons too. So cutting yourself off from this political diversion. I mean, would it be better to actually salivate over Kim Kardashian's ass and give the Archons some of your sexual energy? I don't know. Maybe it would be. But getting involved in this anger, oh, I want to beat you up because you believe this. No, 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 no. Obama, Trump, Bush, Clinton, these are all puppets. These might as well be mirages that just pop up and go away. And be aware of that. They are there to attract your blind support, and they are there to attract your anger. So another way to disconnect from the Archonic influence, understand how it works with politics. Okay. So we talked about doing inventory in your own mind as to some of the ways that you can disconnect from Archon influence and programming and sabotage and the like. Briefly, be responsible in your relationships. And I speak more about this in other videos at great length. And there's actually deeper levels of this, you know, beyond the stuff that I've already put out there. When it comes to sexual responsibility, sexual morality, the fact of the matter is, human beings are light beings. And even if someone has some positive energy, they could be attracting certain things to them. That want to hang around their field, that want to live through them, and even have sex through them. Just like I was talking about, if only people can put on the glasses and actually see the types and shapes and kinds of spiritual parasites that some people have, especially super polygamous types that just can't seem to settle down with someone, that have to keep going and going and going, like they're racing against the clock and they don't know why. Because they're just not satisfied. There's a reason they're living that lifestyle. And having, having had some of my experiences, I understand from a deeper level and also understand that I've kept myself out of certain bad situations for a reason. One could even say that there's been intervention in my life to keep certain things from penetrating that deeply into my psyche. But from some experiences that I've had with women, I understand what it's like to be drained. I understand what it's like for certain people to be attracted to you for a short period of time until the objective is fulfilled. The objective in some cases, but not all, is heartbreak. The objective in some cases, but not all, but primarily, is to redirect your attention and energy and focus from your work to her. And not necessarily to her, the soul, but to that entity that is using her to redirect. For some females, you can replace this with him. But when people are trolling and insulting, that is the Archonic consciousness trying to affect that person that is putting out content or sharing an idea that the spirits are angry, is out there, is being shared, or that certain knowledge is helping certain people that they used to control. So when you see people trolling, it's a very simplistic word for a more deeper psychological, spiritual affliction with what's taking place in their consciousness. You know, I've already discussed my life experiences. Every few months when I'm down, there'll be someone that emerges that'll pop out of the box like a fucking cracked out Jack-in-the-Box. Then it'll be like, you're a homeless dumb. You're a thief. And they're like repeating a script that doesn't sound like it's coming from an intelligent person. And it's not a very intelligent script. Not when the script doesn't change or get very colorful. But it's like, you know, like a script that's voice to Skull, voice to McFly, but through some means beyond human and what people call the gang stalking targeted individual type. But it's almost as if, you know, they're being affected by this. And what someone has to learn in their self-mastery is to rise above those attacks and the false spiritual teachings that say, oh, if something bad happens to you or someone attacks you, someone hurts you, it's your karma. You created it. You created it. Oh, you created it. And they, in turn, by saying that, whether they know it or not, are participating in words and actions that can hurt someone else or demean someone else. And what that does is says more about where they're at than anything else. I look at some of these people that literally do troll his channel and say comments that are more on the rude side. And they have 0 subscribers because they have 0 content. And the main reason trolls like that and that consciousness exists, even people saying, well, maybe you should go back and live in the city. Like new viewers or people that are acting like they're new viewers. And for all I know, I'm starting to think there's a couple people that are just full-time trolls, and they just keep creating new names. And they have developed this type of obsession that seems almost like subhuman, abnormal. It is abnormal psychology for any man or woman, period, to develop an actual obsession with anyone on the internet, on YouTube, to watch their every action, to literally make their life to be a life where they watch their channel, and as soon as they can thumb it down, as soon as the video goes up, they thumb it down. Now, I literally can feel this parasite energy obsessed on my every action, and really it's coming from another place. And there are other energies that are surveilling every video, believe it or not, as crazy as that sounds, on this channel. And that may be the case for a lot of other channels. You know, I want to cite this really quickly before I forget. And you can watch this for free on disclose.tv. The first Star Trek depicts the Archon-human interface quite well. Captain Kirk, before it was played by Shatner, goes on this foreign planet, and he's learning how they work in illusions and sexuality. They try to redirect his consciousness to this image of one of his co-workers dancing in a seductive light. And I thought it was interesting how her skin was painted green, like snake green. And there was like some black markers and makeup, almost as if to make her like female and reptilian and snake-like. And he's in a virtual reality the Archon's controlled, and one of his buddies was there, but it wasn't really his buddy. They took the images from his mind. And his buddy is there saying, now that's worth a man's soul. As her butt goes back and forth to the music. Boom, 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 boom. That's worth a man's soul. And then he realizes he's in a simulated reality, and he bolts for the door. So, realize when there are simulations taking place. Realize when there are traps. Overcome this ignorance and arrogance. Oh, we're just alone in this universe. Oh, we're giving the Archons power if we think about it. Don't be a victim. That's negative thinking. Just like when someone says, oh, if you bring up certain things, that's being negative. Saying things like, calling them Archons gives them power. Because the Archons mean, well, not if we mean that. Okay? They're parasites, and they can be put in their place. Just because you call someone something that's been, referred to, this name Archon has been around for a period of time, that does not give it more power. Just like me talking about China's connection with Boeing, China's connection with Lockheed Martin, China building nuclear aircraft carriers and going to be at a certain spot by 2020. China's plans to be on the moon by 2020. North Korea plans to have 100 atomic weapons by 2020. My reporting of that fact is not helping create it. Okay. But have I met people along the way that have no idea about the spiritual parasitic conspiracy to redirect humanity? That are stuck in this new age. Oh, everybody's waking up. Don't talk about that. Don't report on that, Alex, or you're going to help make it happen. This Archon influence psychobabble has been around for years, and it is ultimately insulting to me as well as others. When you step on the sacred masculine that wants to defend the tribe from danger, that's able to see the threats upon the horizon, at least I feel, and I do speak from my heart, and like that Native American saying, white man is coming, I have warned America already. I have warned Portlanders already, and I've already been laughed at for it. My specific warnings laughed at, told that I want to see those realities come to fruition, that I'm helping create them. Nobody really says those things anymore. But they did during those early years when I was up and coming. People literally thought I was crazy. While some may remember my warnings and go, yeah, we remember a guy used to actually talk about this shit. Solar flares, China, Matrix consciousness, the real Portlandia. They need to go off the grid, and here we are. Oh, fuck. Where is he now? And then you have the other people that laughed at all those things, and maybe now they're experiencing the police state 10 years later. Maybe they're experiencing the surveillance society, things they thought were conspiracies a decade ago. Maybe they're experiencing homelessness, and they used to laugh at the homeless 10 years ago. But do they have the consciousness, free of archonic programming and awareness? Do they have the intuition? Do they have the memory left? Memory. Because the archons attack memories and dreams. Do they have that in them to remember the day and a time when a young man sitting at a desk pointing his finger in Portland, Oregon, talked about these very things and talked about what that city was becoming and talked about this world from an outside-the-box perspective and talked about the coming rise in human trafficking? Do they remember the young man? And those of you that hate me now, will you remember the things that are being said now as we go to the next chapter of our collective human journey, 10 years out and 15 years out? Another point I want to make, this constant stuff with North Korea, this is obviously, in my opinion and feeling, a controlled war-like reality where you're constantly bombarded with these threats of nuclear war, and it's absolutely manufactured by forces most people don't understand. Wars that don't have to happen, and even years before the wars even start, constantly bombarded every day with talk of nuclear war. And human beings not internalizing, but they should. To free themselves of the archonic programming, they should psychoanalyze how this type of manufactured programming affects human sexuality, affects relationships. Really, how men and women act towards each other in the city or at home. Think about all that subconscious stress built up. You're going to die, fear, and you don't have enough. And the ways that women are targeted as well. And many men and women both have this, mentality of, how they're going to play, men and women, to get what they want. To get what they want. And whether they be male or female, doing it to a male or a female, ultimately, inherently, it is wrong. That is what ties many people to the Archonic system. The way that they mismanage their sexual affairs. Dishonesty, cheating, manipulation, and the list goes on. It could be treating your partner like a sex object and not a human being. It could be things like that. So that type of self-inventory, every man, woman has to go through. Women, are you going through certain men like there's no tomorrow? Like they're a tissue paper. Viewed as inanimate objects because they're a man. Popular beliefs about men. I will say that any subconscious desire to hurt a man just for fun because of perceived thousands of years of suppression, that's not healing anything. That type of vengeful, I'm going to get back at the sex, isn't much different in some cases than a man raping a woman. There are ways that a man's emotions can be raped and manipulated and highly under attack. There's ways that men can be born highly emotional and highly capable, and ways that their masculinity can be stripped from them, and how that attack on their person can be very devastating to their overall health. So there are ways that many women have not considered, in ways that you can deconstruct and tear apart a man spiritually. So there's a reason why some of these men that have gone to the dark side, as well as some of these men that haven't gone to the dark side, but they're lost, suffering a mental episode because they've been knocked out of their center, whether it be through a chemical thing or a chemical thing in their brain or an emotional experience or something else. There is a rise in psychological complications in many males today on the planet. And it is a direct result of our environment. Going back to an earlier statement that started this video, I feel very, very good at this moment because I've changed my environment. And I'm exposed to better water, better sunlight, and better water. I'm not drinking that water that was in that well in New Mexico. That also, as well as the people I was around, could have played a part in me being drained and heavily under attack through these archonic forces, depending on someone else to park. being in a different environment, speaking my truth, not holding back anything, being happy in my own skin, feeling healthy physically, having enough food, getting enough sleep. I feel very aligned with truth at the same time. And I can feel intuitively, I'm speaking to people right now this second that want to hear this. That are writing to me now saying they're getting something from this. These comments are starting to trend in the comments section. People are getting something from this. As I realize I'm exactly where I need to be, doing exactly what I need to do. And so ponder what this means for you. We're going to close. You can even look at this video as an introductory thought, not a how-to. But how do we protect ourselves from archonic interference, from being dependent on other people, for example, which can lead to some of that control, some of that slave energy? How do we live free? What is freedom? All these things and more are other ways of asking the same question. Now, we'll close referencing the very basics of meditation. Grounding is a visualization of a grounding cord that connects your root chakra to the center of the earth. And visualizing like a vacuum, a flipping of a switch, and a grounding of your aura, a grounding of your body, visualizing your legs being grounded, different parts of your legs, to your flat feet, the balls of your feet, to your kneecaps, your shins, your thighs, etc. Your hips, stomach, lower back, upper back, arms, forearms, chest, shoulders. Grounding out the head, grounding out the center of the head, grounding out pictures that you may be lit up on. Lit up. It's a term. Lit up for, like lit up. Obsessed on this picture. It could be a fear picture. It could be a threat picture. You could have been etherically implanted somehow, some way, with a fear of someone or something that is designed to keep you in a state of slavery. Spiritual maintenance, the spiritual shower, like a real shower, includes bringing in a gold sun and flushing out all that toxic energy. A gold sun representing your own energy. A gold sun representing your own energy, a magnet in the middle of that sun, bringing back your own energy and frequency, not channeling strange lights. This isn't New Age. This is your energy. Filling that void. That void, of course, created, you ground out those pictures, and then you flush and bring in the gold sun, as well as starting the meditation with the gold sun, running earth and cosmic energy, and understanding that you have the right to own your own space. It is your sovereignty, and that's what this is about. It is about the sovereignty over your own energetic space. And so a lot of people out there that are dealing with some of these spiritual entities, they have some of these attachments through their lifestyles, through, looking at that screen and focusing on that kill and violence and destruction, or, using that little, smart meter or phone, to manipulate men and lie and figure out what you can get because you're materialistic. That's how a lot of women are directly tied to some of these archonic entities. And ultimately, there's many reasons why women are targeted constantly by some of these entities. It's their sexuality. It's that reproductive aspect of themselves. And so by manipulating their choices in men, they are involved in social engineering. They are involved in biology. They are biologists. They are scientists in a way. It's where they are literally affecting people's consciousness and trying to literally play this role of Dark Cupid to further populate and redirect the path of society and human consciousness. And a core part of that is attempting to control and manipulate and redirect what should be normal human free procreation. Instead, it's an area of human life that a lot of people don't think about from another perspective. Whether their thoughts and their turn-ons are their own. So, from people's addiction to certain people, obsessions with certain people, addictions to certain drugs, certain types of violence they're watching on TV, video games or other things, politics. Somebody being remote controlled by another force or another entity, another parasite. they would be able to help themselves, they would be able to free themselves, and it could take a very long period of time, by learning to clear themselves. By learning to identify the actions, the deeds, the words, anything they're engaged in their own life that may be maintaining that cord with that entity. In order to cut the cord with the entity, there has to be some sort of understanding of what is keeping that entity in place. And I think that with the flip of a switch, literally in our own minds and consciousness, we can create our own realities to a certain effect. We can shape our reality. We can shape our lives. We can shape our day really quickly just based on how we look at the day, just like I feel like I did today and tonight. And those same shifts in outlook, those same shifts in how we view our own power, the belief in our powers, the using of those powers, the pulling out of the etheric sword and the slaying of the dragon, these have massive impacts on our ability to overcome an attempt to hack our consciousness or establish or maintain accord with us. I have said enough. I'm going to bring this to a close. And in the future, we'll talk more about this. I'm Alex Hansery signing off from Southern Colorado. It is April 4th, 2016.